What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday night. It's a very wonderful Sunday for me. Not just sports related, but I'm out of quarantine.
There you go.
Woo! Straight out of quarantine.
What's going
Crazy
on,
mother named Tim Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Is that how that works? I think that's how that works. But
Yes.
with that being said, let's go and welcome everybody to this week's edition of the
Benchmark.
Do you think people are annoyed by us in the beginning now? Because I feel like it's fun and I don't care.
Oh, it is. It is. That's the way we got to kick it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One time. So, I am Tim Daniel. I'm very excited to be here with my guys. We are without Sean Mackey tonight. He's doing a little home remodeling tonight. So,
Okay.
yeah, he gets more PTO than the president, apparently.
He does.
Yeah. So, here with my man, 100 grand, Mr. Ben Brown himself. How are you, buddy?
Buddy, I am wonderful. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everybody is having a great start to their year. And just here to talk some NBA hoops, man.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. And then we also have our other guy here, which I can't take that from you.
Yes, sir. My man, my brother, my HBQ, my number one, Joshua Odellis, Forellis, Montellis, Overzealous, Hayes. What's good, my brother?
Man, I forgot it was 2022.
Yeah,
bringing
man.
bringing in the new year with my guys, man. So I'm ready to, jump on here and talk some NBA hoop and whatever else kind of comes up along the way. Whatever it is when we chop it up together, it's always fun. So let's get it.
Absolutely. Hey, it's the year of your boy.
Oh, they don't know. They don't know about my man Sweets. We might have to fill him in one day.
I'm gonna do that. That's gonna be my calling for the year. You're the Sweets.
Even I don't know what this is, but that's okay. So, guys, let's get right to this. I want to kind of talk about some of the things that happened. Unfortunately, last night, as most people were sleeping, we had some craziness go down in Houston. So per Shams Charania, looks like Rockets point guard Kevin Porter Jr. left the arena at halftime after an argument with John Lucas. Christian Wood, I guess, missed a mandatory COVID test, so had to sit out part of the game. And then also, when was asked to check into the game later, refused to check in. So once again, crazy drama with the Rockets. We've been talking about this all year with John Wall. This is kind of getting to be obviously even more of a mess than we anticipated. And look, it's a bunch of young dudes. We know this is a really young basketball team, so we know you've got these guys and they're competitive guys. And from what our guy Nick Canizales told me, I guess he got called for a pretty rough foul and got pretty mad, being Kevin Porter, and then got teed up for arguing against the foul call. And then there's a video he showed me of him walking to the locker room, and you could tell was not very good. And then decided after John Lucas called him out that he was bouncing, and literally left the arena. Like, that's kind of, I know we saw this thing with Antonio Brown today in the NFL, so we're not going to get to that level with this by any means. I hope not.
Right.
But the reality we got to talk about here is, I think we can all say that we're fans of Kevin Porter Jr.'s game. I think, he's a tremendous talent. He had a 50 burger last year, but look, he had trouble at USC. He goes to the league and he gets suspended for a game his rookie year. The off season between his rookie and sophomore year, he has a gun charge allegedly. Comes back to Cleveland, has the issue where they trade for Taurean Prince and Jared Allen, and Taurean Prince has his locker, and he freaks out, gets traded to Houston, goes to the bubble and plays with the Vipers, and then now is here, where he's playing for Houston, had some really good run, and then kind of runs into the situation. So I haven't seen if they've announced a suspension or anything for him yet. I suspect, and I guess that will be the occurrence here. But Christian Wood's your best player, and he's mad at you. And then Kevin Porter Jr., who's supposed to be part of your future. Bringing back him and Jalen Green together from their high school days, and now you have this situation. It doesn't sound too good down there in H-Town.
Nah, man, it doesn't. I think the point that you just made is a really important point. Christian Wood is by far your best player, and now you've got him upset For whatever reason. We don't know the backstory to that or why he didn't go in the game or whatever. But now that he's refusing to go into games, you got the John Wall situation laying over your head. You now you've got Kevin Porter not want to go in game. Like it just seems like it's a full on debacle down there, and I don't know how you fix that. Like you said, they've got a bunch of young players. They've actually got a bunch of young talent down there. That's not bad if they learn how to play together. You saw them make a little run. What they win earlier, like 6 or 7 games in a row, 8 games or something like that, something crazy earlier on in December. Like they've got talent to be able to win games, but for some reason there's been a whole lot of disruption. There's a whole lot of discord, and I don't know if that's from the GM office. I don't know if that's with the coach's office. I don't know if that's just coaching young guys. But Christian Wood doesn't seem like a guy to me that even has an attitude or has had some attitude, because he's been their starter. Kevin Porter started every game he's been there. Christian Wood started every game he's been there. So for those two to have this kind of discord and disruption after they have kind of committed to this Rockets team just seems odd to me. I don't know what's going on there, and I don't know if it's a coaching issue, if it's a GM issue, or if they just don't have any veteran leadership down there. I don't know. But it's very odd to see. Kevin Porter, he's had his issues, but to see Christian Wood not going to a game when that guy, is considered one of the top players, in the league as far as being with the Rockets. I mean, he's actually played pretty well. To see him start to have issues brings up some concern for me as far as how well that coaching staff and the GMs are handling their talent. So I don't know. It just seems very odd to me.
For me, one of your so-called veteran leaders isn't playing right now. So, you have John Wall, who's 10 years in the league, I guess. So I would consider him a veteran leader. You have guys like, I think they have DJ Augustine on their roster. And of course, you have Eric Gordon, who's been there for a really long time. So, those are kind of your mainstays. And I think other than that, like everybody on their roster is like 5 years or less. I think Christian Wood's only 5 years in the league. So they're pretty young. But the concern I have is that everything I've ever known about certain coaches, and the reason I say certain coaches, I'm bringing up John Lucas right now. Everything I've known about him is that he's a player's coach. People love him. He's always been real well respected. And he's the one that was, I guess, who started to handle this in the locker room. And he was the one that was giving them the earful about, from what the reports were saying, it was lack of effort. It was lack of effort on the court. And they didn't like what he was saying to him. So is that just one of those things where these guys are too young to understand and don't have the respect for some of these older guys that are considered coaches? Or is there something bigger that happened in this situation that caused, like you said, Christian Wood got put out of the rotation because he missed the COVID test? I mean, that's fairly understandable, I would think, right?
Right.
I mean, that seems like something that would happen to most people. I don't know if he got tested during the game and it came back negative. I don't know what they did. I just know that would be something that I would say, okay, we're going to have to keep you out of the rotation. But the other piece with Porter Jr., like this is a ongoing, circumstance where this has happened multiple times in multiple different places. So it's starting to become a pattern. It's not necessarily. Now we already know the craziness that's going on in Houston, and I'm sure it adds fuel to the fire. But at the same time, like I said, when you got one like John Lucas in there, and he's the one leading the charge of like saying like, "Hey, I need more effort. Like, I wonder what it was that he actually said that ticked him off enough to be like, you know what, man, F this. I'm out of here. Like, I'm not going back in the game. I'm leaving.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that too, like you brought up a good point, Josh. I think a lot of that's just lack of maturity.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys that are younger in the league, and we've seen this kind of all over. Guys don't like to be challenged. They don't like to be ridiculed. They don't like to be, put to the test, especially if they feel like a guy is testing their credibility or their manhood. So then it becomes, oh, well, you don't think I'm playing hard, and then it becomes an argument instead of accepting it as a challenge. They see it as a threat. You know what I mean? So they don't see it the same way. So a lot of the younger players, you're starting to see that more and more with those guys where, you know, the older generation saw that as, okay, well, if I'm not playing hard, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take it as a challenge to go out and play. The younger guys are seeming to, they get challenged. They want to fold up shop, or they want to pout, or they don't want to go in the game. So some of that's just maturity wise. Some of that's just being mature and being a pro.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about just like the frustrations of this, of this year for Houston, and just kind of what we've seen and how we've been annoyed by the John Wall situation. And it just kind of seems like it might just be that way throughout just kind of the franchise. And that sucks because like Steven Silas came in, it's like, all right, man, cool. I'm going to have James Harden, and like everything went downhill from the day he took the job. And then he gets in the hot seat, and it's bullshit because that guy doesn't deserve that. Like,
I agree.
You guys
really
remember they had that 20-game losing streak last year. I mean, he was on TV crying, because he's passionate about what he does.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, man. It's almost like this modern day same thing. Obviously, I don't want to get into some other stuff, but it's the same thing when it comes to like parenting and stuff. Like it's these modern day, like these kids are younger. They're like I'm a millionaire. Like you can't tell me what to do. I feel like they're trying to instill a culture that involves hard work, effort, and winning. With the coaching staff. I'm not talking about upper management itself. I'm just talking about the coaching staff. And some of these guys aren't with it.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would too. Let's get to our next topic. Let's have some fun with this one. Sorry, Ben.
All good.
I don't know if you guys saw this weekend, as things have been going really fun for
I saw
Chicago Bulls. But DeMar DeRozan.
Gosh, you guys, really? You got
back-to-back.
And you got the clip? Really? You got the clip? Really?
I got both clips. Both clips in the one. So DeMar DeRozan, obviously the Bulls are now up to 7 straight wins in a row. And DeMar DeRozan is the hero on 2 consecutive nights, as DeRozan is the first player in NBA history. Let me rephrase that real quick, just so you guys understand what I'm saying. DeMar DeRozan is the first NBA player in history to hit back-to-back game-winning shots on back-to-back nights. Larry Bird did it in back-to-back games. Here's the one from the Wizards right here. Ben, this one's probably a little easier for you to watch.
You don't even like shooting threes.
Yeah,
Tim, you forgot to mention in 2 different years.
Yeah. Yeah. So DeMar DeRozan with another awesome shot against the Wizards. They were outmanned last night. I mean, the Wizards were fantastic. Right before this, Kyle Kuzma, it's the go-ahead 3. And Kyle Kuzma goes in the presser and says, DeMar's told me to hold my beer, which I thought was incredible. So this brings me to the conversation what I have here. Obviously, we've talked all year about this Bulls resurgence. Josh and I and Sean being big Bulls fans, like this is a lot of fun for us to see them play well, see them be competitive, and see them win games. They got sick jerseys between their statement one, like in the picture here of DeRozan, their City Edition jersey. It's the Bulls emblem. We've talked a lot about how the NBA is so much better when the Bulls are good, and I don't think they're a perfect team, but I think right now we're looking at what DeMar DeRozan's done. He's got to be in that MVP discussion, right? With like Durant and Curry, like. He's got to be in that conversation right now.
Dude, the Bulls are 24-10.
Yeah,
number 1 in the East.
They're number 1 in the East. Like
by themselves.
There's no tie. They're the number 1 team in the East. They're 24-10. Like, how could he not be in the MVP discussion? Now, I think it's unjustly to him and not fair to him. Everybody wants to bring up the big name guys, your Jokic's. I know, your LeBron's, all these guys. Like, if you're not paying attention to what DeMar DeRozan is doing, not even just him. Heck, I would put Zach LaVine in the MVP conversation. Both of those guys. I mean, what they're doing for that Bulls team is amazing. And I'm not saying it's just them, because they've had Vucevic step up. You know what I mean? Kobe White's actually playing really well. Like
really well.
Like they've had different guys step up, but those 2 have led a charge. Yeah. They've led a charge and a resurgence in Chicago where they're leading the Eastern Conference, in a conference that's not as, I mean, that's where your reigning, defending champions are. That's where the 76ers are. I mean, like, that's not a shabby conference, and those guys are at the top of the heap. And what they've done for that Bulls franchise and that culture, them two should, or I mean, of course, they're going to be all-stars, but there's no doubt in my mind that those two should both be brought up in MVP conversation. DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. I don't want to slouch Zach LaVine either because he's been incredible as well. So I think both of those guys should be up for MVP consideration. I mean, of course, it doesn't happen, of course, that way because they don't like giving both guys a shot at it. But both those guys deserve to be in that talk. I mean, because they both have been incredible, and that team as a whole has been incredible.
Well, I'm sure Tim will probably go into some detail. One of the reasons we brought this up earlier in one of our shows, like early on, like when we first started talking about DeRozan with the Bulls. Oh, go ahead and show that again. Yeah. I like that.
Like I said, he don't even like shooting threes.
The last time I checked, and I don't know if I can find an updated stat right now, but DeMar DeRozan leads the NBA in fourth quarter points per game at 8.
Yep.
He is shooting well over 50% from the field, and he's shooting well over 45% from the 3-point range, from the 3-point line. And to me, and if you look at some of our games, like a lot of our games have not been blowouts. They've been fairly close. So those points are needed in a lot of these games coming up. And like when we need buckets, we go to DeMar DeRozan. And one of the games that distinctly sticks in my head is when we were playing the Lakers. I don't know if you guys remember this. It was towards the end of the game. DeRozan on LeBron made a move, got to the basket. LeBron blocked his shot. Ball went around. DeRozan got the ball back, took another move, and hit this crazy jump shot over LeBron to basically win the game. And I'm like, if that's not clutch, like, I don't know what is. And like, he's not scared to take those shots either. He is not scared.
Neither of them are. And I think that's what makes it so fun.
And that's what's big. I agree with you, Tim, because I'm like, even if you look at that, here's what's going to hurt. If you're talking about DeRozan being MVP, the thing that's going to hurt him is that Zach LaVine's playing so well. like it's almost pulling votes from one another. You know what I mean? Like, DeRozan definitely needs to be deserved top, but for Zach LaVine he's averaging 26 himself. Shooting 40, he's shooting 50% from the field and 42% from 3. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like,
hey,
you have those two guys. Like, it's hard. You know what I mean?
Tim, remember when they all said it wasn't going to work?
They all said it wasn't going to work, but here in 48 minutes, we all told you. We told you. You said it was the worst. You people out there said it was the worst signing in the NBA this offseason. And now we're talking about him being in the MVP race with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant.
Yeah, he's been incredible.
Can't believe both those Lakers didn't want to pay him money.
Yeah, thanks for giving Alex Caruso up too.
Unreal.
Well, they play tomorrow for the third night in 4 games against Orlando. So I mean, why not just do it 3 games in a row, right? You know, go full-fledged like college basketball Jimmer Fredette. Like,
yeah, that would be sick. So, if you hit a third one, that would be sick.
Yeah, at some point, people are going to wonder if the league's fixed if he does it again. But I want to read this off.
Those shots that he's shooting are at such difficulty, though, man. Like, you can't fix that.
You know what makes me laugh is the Indiana one. Sorry, Ben.
Oh no! I mean that shot was incredible because he literally took that shot like, if I make it, oh well, run off one leg, oh well, we'll see what happens. You're like, really?
Yeah. I'm in freaking quarantining in my basement, and Sean's at the game, like texting me, like, yeah. Get boosted, people. Get boosted. That's all I'm gonna say. But you know, I was laughing so hard because people were like, oh, well, you know, he took a bad shot. And it's like, it was a buzzer beater. What is he supposed to do? Like, you can't get to your spot. Everyone knows he's going to shoot the ball. It's like the freaking, like when Paul George said about Dame Lillard, when they, like, the Blazers sent the Thunder home in the playoffs. I hate that so much on a buzzer beater. Cause it's like, you realize how much time he had to, like, get a shot off. Like, There's at that point no such
Right.
thing as a bad shot. No
Right.
such thing
No.
as a bad shot.
I gotta take a shot. Like that's pretty much. There's no getting to my spot. I just gotta rise up and fire.
Yeah. But I wanted to read this off real quick. So Ricky O'Donnell, who has the Cash Considerations Chicago Bulls podcast, is a really good pod. We've had Jason Pat on quite a few times. He's the co-host of that show. He tweeted yesterday that the DeMar season is the best non-Michael Jordan season in Bulls history. So I want to read a couple of these numbers off real quick. I won't go full into detail. But this year, DeMar at 26.8 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4.6 assists, 59% true shooting, and a 3+3 box plus minus. 94 Scottie Pippen, 24 points, 8.7 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 54% true shooting. Derrick Rose's MVP year, 25 points, 7 assists, 55 true shooting. 2016 Jimmy Butler, 24 points, 58 per. Man, this happens on an episode. Alrighty. So, with that being said, yes, DeMar DeRozan said the best season of the Bulls that's not named Michael Jordan. So, suck it.
He has, man. He's been phenomenal.
That means he would have won the MVP back in Derrick Rose's season and Scottie Pippen's season.
That's
most
right.
likely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, one of the cool things, obviously, about this time of year, it always starts around Christmas time in a regular season, unlike last year, is that we can kind of go and start doing our All-Star ballots. And I asked each of you guys to fill yours out so we can kind of go through them this week. And Sean did give me one, even though he is not on the show this week. So I went ahead and we got him started with his. And I realized as we were putting these together that the picture I wanted you guys to send me is not very visible. So thankfully, I made a little thing here so we can kind of see who's who. So Sean's Western Conference All-Stars at forward, he went LeBron, Nikola Jokic, and DeAndre Ayton, Steph Curry, John Morant. And the East, he went Giannis, Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine. We all have this a little different, but we all had the Eastern Conference backcourt DeRozan and LaVine. So I thought that was kind of awesome.
Mhm.
But
How do you not?
Yeah, I agree. The only the people were like, and I know listing LeBron here is kind of the counter argument to what I'm saying, but it was really down to like LaVine and Trae Young for that last guard spot. And it was like, okay, well, one guy is on the team that's the top seed in the East, and one guy is on a team that has 27 people under the roster right now, and they still can't win games.
Right.
Yeah, you tell me. But I asked Sean particularly why he said DeAndre Ayton, and his exact answer was that no one is playing their role better than he is right now, and for what his team needs. And obviously the Suns are having a tremendous year. They're, in the fight with the Warriors for the top of the West. And he said he's the most underappreciated component of any championship contending team this year. He shoots a high percentage and just knows his fucking role. And I love that. So I like Sean's ballot's pretty solid. We'll go to mine real quick. We don't have to spend a ton of time on these, but I'll get your guys' thoughts on a couple of your picks. So I went Jokic. So I had the same West with Sean, except for one difference. I had LeBron, Jokic, and I had Kat. And then I had Steph Curry and John Morant. As I totally forgot to edit this slide and make it bolder, so I'll read it off. And then the East, I had Durant, Giannis, Embiid, DeRozan, LaVine. So Sean and I had everything the same except for he had Ayton, where I had Kat. And Kat, just for me, it came down to he's shooting 41% from three. He's having his tremendous year. I know he's out with COVID protocols right now. Him and D'Lo are both out tonight against the Lakers. So if you're watching this before we record, put money on the over for Anthony Edwards because he's probably going to drop 55 tonight because he's going to take every shot.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and look, like I said, the thing about it was just LeBron's not playing too well right now. I know the Lakers aren't playing well. This isn't about that by any means. It's just that the stretch he's on is just incredible. I mean, the other night.
He's been phenomenal. Yeah, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah, so it was hard for me to put someone over him in that circumstance. But Curry and Ja, I mean, you talk about someone who's played amazing. Ja this week was freaking out of his mind. That 41-point game against LA. Seeing him come back and seeing the Grizzlies win again when, people wanted to tell him that he should sit out when they came back and they lost, which was unbelievably stupid. Yeah, it was cool. So Ben, I bring you in here and I want to get you have you talk a little bit because we had the same forward combo for the West. Actually, we literally had everything the same except for my second guard in the West. I had Ja, and you had Luka.
Yeah.
So, what made you go with Luka here?
Just honestly, Ja Morant, I guess they both had missed some time. I do love Ja. It was a toss up for me, honestly. It was no like if I could have picked Ja, Luka. I mean, it's kind of 6-1, half dozen the other. But for me, for my money, I just like Luka a little bit better
Sure.
as far as what he means towards his team. I mean, and you know, Ja means a lot towards his team too. But you know, it's kind of 6-1, half dozen the other to me. You know, the only one, you know, that was the only struggle I really had in picking a choice was those two between Ja and Luka. Everybody else was pretty solid for me. But yeah, that was kind of a toss up for me, honestly.
Yeah, it's a close one.
Either one of those. Like you pick Ja, I'm like, yeah, I mean that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't anything crazy. Like, oh, I like Luka over Ja over Luka. It was just, you know, Luka's having a little bit better number wise season, but that's about it.
Sure. And the Josh had a ballot that is really, I'm not saying, you know, obviously it's the All-Star ballot, so everyone's going to have a little different thoughts here. But he went Jokic, Cat, and Gobert for his forwards in the West. And then for his guards, he went Steph Curry and Donovan Mitchell. And the East, he went Levine and DeRozan like we all did. But you went Kevin Durant, Giannis, and you're the only one of us who had Domantas Sabonis.
Thanks, man.
So let me give you my reasoning for all this, because obviously
see I would love
name's not on there either.
Sure.
Based off of right now, Ja Morant, LeBron, Embiid, I feel like they have not played enough games. So The way I went off this, I went with guys who have basically played the entire season, and they have the stats to back up why they should be starters. Now, obviously, I know when the votes are finished, LeBron's going to be a starter. Embiid's going to be a starter. Like, it is what it is. But I went strictly based off of, I'll use LeBron, for instance. He's played 24 out of 38 games. So he's missed 14 games. That's basically a third of the season already. That's kind of how I went about this. I was like, I wish that the All-Star voting would get changed a little bit, because I feel like guys get voted in sometimes when they don't have enough actual playing time on the floor to say, hey, I should be an All-Star, but my name got me in, my play did not. So if you look at the numbers, LeBron's numbers clearly get him in the All-Star game. I mean, he's basically averaging above his career highs almost right now. I mean, it's especially this last 8 or 9 games tear he's on right now. But he's only played 25 games or 24 games. Same with Luka. I didn't pick Luka for the same reason. Luka hasn't played enough games. Ja hasn't played enough games. But then when you go to guys like Rudy Gobert is leading the league in rebounding. He's shooting 73% from the field. He's literally having statistically his best offensive season ever. He leads the league in defensive win shares, offensive win shares, and win shares per 48 minutes. And I'm like, how do you not take any of that stuff into consideration when you're taking All-Stars and making them All-Stars?
Look at Odellis tonight.
I know.
The advanced stats. My God.
Yeah.
I see you. I see you. I like this.
So Sean said that Ayton plays his role well. I think Gobert plays his role about as well as anybody does. And I don't think he gets appreciated for it. I mean, he's averaging over 15 rebounds a game. I think he's like almost 16 and 15 is his stats or something like that. I mean, just an insane number. And people don't realize this, but Utah's like, I think 1.5 or 2 games out of behind Golden State for first place. Like, it's not far. Yeah, like they're sneakily out there winning. They played each other and they lost, but
2.5 out.
Well,
they played each other and they lost.
A lot of that. I think a lot of that is just playoff fatigue, because we're like, okay, yeah, whatever, we get it. You guys are really good in the regular season, but what happens in the playoffs? And that's not fair. I totally see what you're saying, Josh, and I agree with it. But yeah, I'm with you. But we got, I mean, Mitchell won, obviously, you know, he's been tremendous. Sabonis, I get what you're saying as far as not games played, but Sabonis was really an interesting one when I saw you put your ballot in.
Well, when you go with the front court, like other than Embiid, like I don't think there's anybody else in the Eastern Conference that's put up the numbers that he's put up that would allow him to be in that spot. He's over 4 assists, and he shoots a high percentage from the field as well too. He's shooting 56%. So again, he's one of those guys. He's on a team that's not doing very, very well. As Ben would say, I think he thinks that they're underachieving a little bit, but like he brings it every night, every single night he brings it, and he'll probably make it as a reserve. But like I said, if this was a normal season and COVID wasn't taking people out and everybody had played the same amount of games, I would probably be right there with Embiid and LeBron in those spots. But I do think that Donovan Mitchell truly deserves the nod at the starting guard with his stats alone. If you go back and look, I mean, he's at 26 a game. He's killing it right now. He just had a 39-point game and a 40-point game. Like he's starting to put it together.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
So that was my only reasoning why my ballot was a little different, was the amount of games played, and that was it.
Dude, honestly, I love it. I really do. I think it's really because, like, I think for people who aren't us, when they do this, obviously they're like, oh yeah, I really love LeBron James. I really love Kevin Durant. I really love this guy. And it's like, okay, sure. Like, I get that. There's nothing wrong with that. But for you to kind of go and be like, look, man, I don't think this guy's played enough to be in the starters. Like, I think it's cool. I think it's really neat the way you did it. So kudos, man.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into our bench Gawds. By the way, I totally forgot to put this in the slides earlier. Do either of you want to have a quick say before we get into our bench Gawds about Rajon Rondo going to the Cavs? I think it's a good move for the injuries they have, and I know he's the report is he's really excited to play for a competing team. I think he'll do well with guards.
I think he can help those young guards out if they really let him take on that leadership role. I mean, we all know Rondo's probably one of the smartest point guards we've ever seen play the game. So I think it's a good move for that aspect of it to have him there, but he's not taking much of their playing time.
I'm actually going up there the 22nd. They're playing OKC, so I can go see, my favorite player, Evan Mobley. So, I go stay with my wife's family.
Nice.
So again, kind of speaking for Sean tonight. So his bench Gawd this week was Greg Monroe. As we saw, Greg Monroe is one of the guys the Wolves signed with a 10-day hardship contract this week. And Greg Monroe, man, got out there and he was doing his thing. First game, getting 11 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. You see here him playing against the Celtics, one of his 14 teams he's played for, but he's got some nice, baseline passes, and he's playing really well there. So I wanted to make sure Greg Monroe got some bench God love this week from Sean Mackey. And I'll tell you, I don't know how much you guys remember, but do you remember that Greg Monroe was in the same draft class as John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, and Paul George?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
Yeah, and people don't remember either that he was really good with Andre Drummond when they first got into the league. Those two were phenomenal together.
Yeah, man. He was so good at Georgetown.
You break up a good thing sometimes, man.
Right.
Those two were phenomenal together.
Yeah, so I want to make sure Sean got his in there, so kudos. Joshua played this one a little close to home, but I'll tell you what, I like it. Joshua went with our guy Jordan Nwora, who we've seen his last 5 games popping up in the 18 PPG reel and had this baby right here. It's a cell phone video, so it's the best I could do.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, off the bounce.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really have much to say. I mean, you put the stats up. I mean, they kind of speak for themselves. He got thrown into the starting role a couple times. Then he had like a DNP, which I thought was kind of weird since he's been playing so well. But I started watching him more and more after I watched him come over to the Olympics and play when everybody else did after the Bucks played in the championship and won their ring. And he was super aggressive in international play. And I was like, man, if he could bring that back to the NBA, he could have a role, on his team here. And then I noticed that he started getting a little bit more clock. And as he was getting clock, he was, putting more stats up. And so I started watching as all the COVID stuff started happening. People were getting out, and he got in a couple rows. And then I started seeing him balling. I was like, okay. So I started following. I'm like, yeah, he's put together quite the little bit of a week or last couple of weeks. So, he played for Nigeria in the Olympics, and he played well over there. So, wanted to give him a shout out.
I like it, man. Real quick before we get to Ben, Josh Giddey just became the youngest player in NBA history to record a triple-double.
Wow.
In 36 minutes, he had
bound to happen.
Yeah, in 36 minutes, he had 17 points, 13 rebounds, 14 assists, and 4 steals.
Wow.
He was 3 of 5 from 3 tonight, too.
I'm so mad I missed on him in fantasy basketball.
Dude, that was my big miss of the draft. That was my big miss, because I was like, all this stuff comes out where, like, and you watch the tape, and you're like, and it's like, weaknesses. It's like dribbling, passing, defense, and shooting. And you're like, basketball? Is that his weakness?
The actual game of basketball?
Yeah. All right, so Ben, we got you coming up here, and you went with a unique one. You went with a rival of Josh's Louisville Cardinal alum. You went with Hamidou Diallo.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Our boy Good Luck Kyle, his Pistons have struggled this year. But, in the last 5 games, Diallo's had to step up and play some big-time minutes, with all the COVID issues and people running short. He's actually got to play a little bit more. Last couple games he's had, he's played really well. So to watch him, kind of do what he's been able to do has been pretty cool. He's a Kentucky guy. I'm not what you would say a Kentucky. I don't know how to put it. I'm not a crazy Kentucky guy. I do enjoy a little bit of Kentucky basketball. He was one of the players I did enjoy while he was at Kentucky. But the other night he played 50 minutes and had 34 points. And then on the 29th versus the Knicks, they lost, but he had 31 points, 5 steals, 4 assists, and 13 rebounds. So the last few games he's gotten more minutes, been able to get more run, and he's actually stepped up and played really well. So Hamidou Diallo is my bench guard of the week.
He's got bounce.
He does have bounce.
He's got bunnies.
Yeah, he does. He can get up for sure. Yeah,
he can. And while we're in the habit of making our bench gods this week on College Basketball All-Stars, I went with Kyle Guy of the Miami Heat. Now, a lot of us might remember Kyle Guy from being part of the Virginia Cavaliers that won the title a couple years ago. Also from Titus and Tate, which at that point were called One Shining Podcast, had their segment of Good Guy, Bag Guy, Kyle Guy. So it was every weekly shout out to Kyle Guy, but not just being an internet phenomenon. And also a very happy fan of the Cincinnati Bengals today. If you check Kyle Guy's tweets, you see he's big. He's part of the Houday alums.
There you go.
Celebrating an AFC North victory today. Yes, sir. Love it. Getting back to the league earlier this week. Played 24 minutes for the Heat, had 17 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. And also played pretty decent tonight. I got these numbers up real quick. The Heat did lose to the Kings, the team that drafted him, funny enough. And he had 7 points, 2 rebounds, and 4 assists and a block. So kudos to Kyle Guy. And we'll watch some footage here because that kid's a problem. I'll tell you what, man. I know this is kind of hard to watch it, like with these hardship contracts and things like that. I think it's pretty awesome. These guys are getting opportunities to kind of show who they are.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of been the best part about all of this. It's just kind of seeing guys who can consistently kind of bring their skill sets and be helpful. I mean, right now, Kyle Guy is outplaying Duncan Robinson, which if you told me that after the bubble, I'd say you're crazy. But just kind of really happy to see him kind of getting his moment out there. Let's watch this real quick. This is just so pretty. I just love this offense. Ooh, right there in the corner. You love to see it. So for my guy, Kyle Guy, you're my bench god this week.
Yeah, man, I think it is cool. Of course, people having to stay out for COVID isn't cool, but
no, that part's not cool.
Yeah, that part's not cool. But seeing guys like Kyle Guy, Diallo, guys that usually wouldn't get an opportunity, and make the most of that opportunity is pretty cool.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's been a lot of fun to watch. Well, I think we've hit everything this week. Is there anything you guys want to touch on before we bounce?
I believe that's it.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the first place Bulls yet?
I brought the tea out tonight. So I'll tell you guys, I was pretty excited, obviously, about the Bengals today. I had on my everything I ordered in the game today. So I had my Burrow jersey. I was ready to come on the show and wear it. And then Shaq, my dog, just got back from outside and jumped on my jersey and just took his paw, went right across the 9, just had mud across it.
Oh, man.
I got to be right when I'm on camera.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. But I'm happy to wear the Bulls today, on the show. Next week, I know I kind of want to get into like where we're at as far as your guys' thoughts on. I know we talked about DeRozan with the MVP today, but just kind of give you guys a heads up. Next week, I was kind of looking to kind of talk about like how I feel about Rookie of the Year right now, because I think Josh Giddey, Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, Franz Wagner, they're all making pretty good names for themselves.
I was going to say a lot of good rookies, man.
Yeah, so kind of want to do like a rookie recap and see how that's looking for everybody. But yeah, man, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys had a great time with us. Hope you had a great New Year. I spent it in my basement, so never want to do that again.
All right.
Also, if you have a chance, I had a really cool at-large bid this week with Ian Stonebrook from Boardroom, Kevin Durant's company, him and Rich Kleiman, talking about the history of the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball program and Jordan Brand, which there's a little discussion that might be coming back because Under Armour and the Cincinnati are on the fritz right now, from what people are saying. So might be getting those babies back.
Hey,
ooh,
that would be nice.
That would be. So hopefully you guys check us out. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. We're live every Sunday at 8:30 Eastern here on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We love interaction. So if you have comments or anything you want to say, it'll pop up and we'll be able to see it, at least on Facebook and YouTube. It's a little harder on Twitter, but we're working on it. Other than that, have a good one. 5-star reviews, and we're out.